what do you think's going on with the guy who owns Tesla building tunnels? Or is he trying to build something like a CERN?
Andrew, this CERN thing, we're all speculating that CERN is like a negative Stargate. But if people actually, I like that you brought up CERN. If people would just look at the dynamics of the various buildings, as well as the little start points, the circles where the energy starts. When you look at where the energy starts, where they start sending those little hadrons, when they start sending those hadrons out, they start from a small point. It's a small circle. It gets into a second bigger circle, and then it eventually gets put into that bigger circle. What people don't realize, we're all focused on CERN as it's opening a Stargate and it's going off to something not so hot. But if people would just dig into CERN a bit, you'd realize that it's actually how the mind operates. So when we talk of CERN as being a totally negative, CERN in actual fact is how the mind works. It's a replica of the mind on a physical level to transform or access dimensions or information from other dimensions. That is how all our minds work. So CERN is actually a replica of your mental energy. So it's not just a negative, otherworldly thing. No, it's actually how our minds work, which people are not looking into. They're all just thinking, oh, well, it's stargates and it's opening up into other worlds. It has to first start with that physical thing. That's how we think, how our minds operate. You will get the first part where it starts. It's got a PB or PBS. Now that's where you send out an initial hadron which basically tests the waters. And in the same way, our mind, we get an inspiration or an inspired thought. We get some information, and we just think, oh, okay, let's start thinking that. And if you start repeating, that's why it's in a circle, you start repeating that, you'll find that what happens, you start elevating your consciousness. And then eventually, if you can just stay or study deeper or meditate, or however you want to talk about it, you then push yourself or your thoughts into the large circle. And it's then that you start accessing. That's how we access other dimensions. It's through our thoughts. We are the stargates. Like I said in my previous video, we are stargates, and it's through our blood. It's through the spine. And then those two connected, if you can, I talked about balancing the blood in the previous videos. So if you can, and you balance your blood either through physical food, diet, or you can change it through the way we think. And you alter that and you actually change your state so you can access other dimensions.
Fascinated to know a bit more about you, Holger. Like, how did you get awoken to all this? Was it just, did you just get interested at a young age, or was your father interested in it, your family?
Andrew, it takes a number of lifetimes to just get into this stuff. You don't just get into the level where I am in one lifetime. You've got to have some previous training, you get there by birth. We've all been prepared, and different people on different levels, and it's not everybody's on this level. Some people are very ingrained in the material world, and that's fine for them. Eventually they will realize that there's other things, and they will then tap into these other dimensions. I, for one, where I was born in this life, I was born near a national monument which has access to the blueprint of mankind. And you get affected on a DNA. So I've got you by birth. Sure, my dad was also into it, so you also get born or incarnated into certain families which help. It's no good a psychic being born into a very materialistic family. That's not exactly going to promote the agenda of helping them raise their soul consciousness. So it does help about the family you're born into, which is a choice from your soul. Then it is also relative to where on earth you're born, just like these colliders, these different colliders, where are they? They're all on various points within Earth along this grid, various grids. These needles or these obelisks that are on the various parts of the planet, they are on specific points. Now, if you get near those and you either live near them or you will get yourself to those points very often, you will alter your consciousness because they are tapping in to energies from elsewhere. That's what, I mean, there's a lot of articles. All your people who are listening to this would know about the grid that Tesla was talking about, the grid that all these various needles, the Egyptians, what they're talking about, the various national monuments, the various churches, the various old buildings, and not just churches, even your town halls. Simple thing like a town hall. It's got special energies. So yeah, you can get there. I mean, so there's different ways you could promote it or improve it or encourage it within this life.
It's like Rosslyn Chapel. There's some amazing going on there. You can't even take pictures inside Rosslyn Chapel or video.
Rosslyn Temple, when you're studying these deeper stuff, it's only for a select few. Not everybody's meant to get this knowledge. Not everybody's meant to have this information. So it's only for a select few. And those who are really keen, you basically got to be qualified to get access to this information. You can't just be a novice and get into the real deep secrets, because you can do damage to yourself, number one, but also people are going to use it for power. People are going to use it for the wrong reasons. So you also want a certain race consciousness that you're actually going to utilize the information properly. When you go to Rosslyn Temple, there are either plaques, there are either symbology, there's different pieces of the puzzle that you can put together. And when you, who are of a certain mindset, put pieces together, you will start getting answers of life. Now, to the average person, they're not interested in that. So they don't want that information out there, because the wrong people, when I say wrong people, people are going to use it purely for material gain instead of elevating our consciousness. As much as we think that the powers that be are just suppressing everything on earth, they are not. There are another group of people who are actually helping to raise the consciousness. This is why inner earth maps are kept quiet. If we start realizing what the energy is at inner earth, we will realize what the continents or those places above on the terrestrial level, what their energy points are. So you'd have a look at America is a world power. England is a world power. You look at Russia, or you look at India, or you look at China. There's different energies there. Now, relative to the agenda, the general agenda where we're pushing human consciousness, if you look at the map down in Argatha, or let's just start on Earth, if you look at where the world powers or where these, who's driving the consciousness of this planet? What's driving the consciousness of this planet? What culture is driving the consciousness of this planet? So you got your American people and you got the Chinese people. Now, those two consciousness on a non-material level, they are driving the general consciousness of the human in a certain direction. If you go into Argatha, you will notice that the energy is being driven from Argatha, from those continents that lie directly underneath it. They are actually determining what America should be pushing, what China should be pushing. So the energy comes from down below. So if you could start understanding, okay, so what are they doing in the various parts of Argatha, you would understand what the agenda is that they're pushing. When you look at astrology, or you look at the Argatha map, you'll notice there's the four rivers in Argatha, and on the one river there's a line, a dotted line, a straight line, which is not part of the landscape. That line is the start point, and the start point, according to astrology, is where everything starts manifesting. So you'll realize at that point, that energy is being driven, and that's determining the planet's consciousness. So look to Argatha if you understand why or where are these different controlling bodies coming from.
So do you understand what happened with Admiral Byrd when he went
Yes.
to...
Andrew, you went to both the North Pole and the South Pole. I mean, there's a lot of documentation people can read on. But again, people are the sensationalism of he was killed, he was murdered. The sensationalism of all these people who get kept quiet, who get snuffed out. If we have a look and we start understanding that those are just fear tactics for the ones who are not supposed to develop or evolve in consciousness, but for the rest of us who do want to dig deeper, you're not going to get caught up in that fear factor. You're going to study, you're going to look past all of that, and you're going to realize, okay, what's behind all of that? So for the masses who are not elevated in consciousness enough, they will be scared off. Leave them. Don't worry about them. Not everybody can be on the same consciousness as the entire planet. Different people are at different levels. So for us who want to study or have a raised consciousness, we will dig into that. And it's not that you're always going to be wiped out. It's not that you're going to be killed. You can go forward. So Admiral Byrd went into there and he had a particular agenda. Yes, he was murdered like Tesla. But he wasn't allowed to put out the information all at the same time. He wasn't allowed because it wasn't right for that time. Since the Twin Towers went down, energy has shifted. Now things are starting to come out. I mean, these artificial robots, these... who's the guy in America? What's he pushing with these rocket travel? Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I mean, that information was not allowed to be out a number of years ago. Just go and look at the Large Hadron Collider. Go and look at the different types of energies or the different particles that they're dealing with. Some of this has been studied in the 1960s, 1940s, but the information never came out. We never heard about quarks until recently. They've been studying that since the 60s. So you must realize the information is not allowed to be put out for the masses because the consciousness of the planet is not such that they can start thinking on it on a daily basis. But all our consciousness is, the world's consciousness is being raised. It definitely is being raised. So we're getting there. So what Byrd saw, it wasn't the time for it to come out. Since the Twin Towers have been taken out, that was a lead up to the so-called scary Mayan calendar ending. The Mayan calendar does not end like they all said. That's also sensationalism, but it's to try and get people, it's to scare people into thinking in a certain way. I mean, a long count calendar, I try and explain it to people like this. Our modern calendar that we have now in the West. Andrew, if you think about it, when does our calendar end? We have a long count calendar. When does our calendar end? That calendar had an end? Really? And we all believe it? They chose certain dates. Yes, there were certain energies that lined up at that stage, but no, it didn't end. It shifted. So they were trying to tell us while it ended, what they were saying is the old world ended. But the calendar never ended.
Because in Ragnarok, they talk of the old world ending and the new world starting.
Right.
And you get all this old world and new world, the Atlanteans getting taken over by the Athenians. And so who, in your eyes, who did 9/11 if it wasn't Islamic extremists? Was it the government or was it a secret organization?
No, it wasn't from Earth. It was orchestrated. It might have been done by people on Earth, but it was not originated or orchestrated by the Earthlings. It was orchestrated by somebody from the other side. It's like when you are building, let's talk about baking a cake. When you bake a cake, you get a recipe for the first time and you start mastering that cake. You practice and you learn how to make that cake. Eventually you get experienced enough that you can then say, all right, now I'm going to start changing the recipe slightly. Once you change the recipe to your particular taste, you can basically shut off or close off that book, that recipe book, and get rid of it. And now you're into a new energy of cake making because you've elevated your consciousness to such that you no longer need or use that old energy. And that's exactly what happened with Twin Towers. The Earth's energy is not at a point where we need that old energy anymore. We need to drop it. It's gone. We need to move on and move the consciousness on to where we are now and look forward. So that energy is gone. It's finished. So the Twin Towers is not an issue of whether it was a conspiracy, whether it was or wasn't blown up, whether it was, whatever the stories are. That's not the issue. We should stop focusing on that. It's not about that. We should think about it. It's a stargate, an anode and a cathode. It's an energy field. It's an energy source. It's shut down. That's past. It's gone. What's now? So now we're looking at Large Hadron Colliders. What's happening there? So the mind, when you look at the way the mind works, the energy has shifted from that Stargate to now CERN. So what is CERN doing? CERN is opening up access points to different places.
So we had this ship not long ago. There's a cigar-shaped sort of ship, what the scientists have been saying that they don't think was natural. Because of the speed it was going and its trajectory and all that sort of thing. And then you hear stories about Nibiru nearly on its path back to us and things. And do you think this was like a scouting force for Nibiru?
They're different species, Andrew.
Oh, right.
A lot of people are focusing on the cigar spaceship. Yes, it's another crowd that nobody actually knows what they're doing, why they're hanging about there. Or they're not actually like doing anything, and nobody understands their agenda. Are they gonna attack us? Have they got positive effects for the Earth? So there's a lot of speculation. Coming from where I come as an astrologer, what happens is astrology is an energy map. It's not the time for this energy to come through for us to speculate on. It's simply have a look at what energies are around on Earth at the moment and say, what's the point of learning or understanding that information? Why should we understand that knowledge? Instead of having an opinion of what's right and what's wrong. If we're going to stick with the point of what's right and what's wrong, we are not going to understand how to actually expand our minds because we are being so opinionated that we don't actually get the message. So this cigar ship, it's non-human. It's not even of the Pleiadian species. It's of another species totally altogether. And it's not the time for them to do anything yet. So we're focusing on that. But in actual fact, that shouldn't be our focus now. We should be focusing on other stuff, like what are these different particles they're talking about in what science is now studying. Because before we just studied atoms with the electrons and the protons and the neutrons. CERN and NASA have taken it where it's now we're dividing the different parts of the movement of those orbits, of those little electrons or protons. Those orbits are now being divided into mainly 2 parts, but also into 4 parts. So whether you're having an up orbit or an orbit that cycles the top half of the hemisphere and then it comes back down and cycles the bottom half, those are what they call the half cycles. So when you start studying the half cycles, you'll realize how your mind actually works. It's not just, oh, well, I've got a thought and I'm thinking. No, your thoughts oscillate. Then you're raising your consciousness, then you're dropping your consciousness, and you're actually thinking. You're not just thinking along one line. Your thoughts actually have got different processes. Although you think it's a single thought, that thought has a up movement and a down movement, which you'll get into with some of these mythologies that you're dealing with. They show those quarks. They actually show the movement as to how they actually operate. What CERN is exposing now is not new.
Do you think all the battles that are happening on Earth, the wars that happened, every time you hear about battles, there's always stories of people seeing UFOs. That goes back to like World War II with the Foo Fighters. In America, with the Los Angeles, where there was all firing the anti-air at the ship, and people was actually killed in that. And then you've got the stories in Vietnam, people seeing UFOs, people coming across pyramids in the middle of, and there's a really deep tunnel in Vietnam, one of the deepest tunnels on Earth, and there's stories of people going missing and things like that. So I think I'm starting to think that all these battles on Earth are something to do with that maybe they're being commanded by these UFOs or something like that, or they're dropping special forces off to help out and something like interfering in the wars. And it even goes back to Alexander and things like that, where he's seen gleaming silver shields swooping overhead in a battle. And so definitely something's going on. Every time there's war, there's always UFOs involved.
One of the tsunami that really hit Japan had UFOs above it. Yes, it's happening. Yes, that's correct. I can't remember the exact story of when some parliamentary building in America, this was it the 1800s? I can't remember, when that was going to get burnt down and the UFOs caused a great thunderstorm to put out the fire. Yes. The UFOs are around while these major events are going on. Tsunamis are activated from under the waters. Well, who's going to activate it from under the waters? Are we activating it from underneath the waters, from behind the tectonic plates? Are we activating it from UFOs that will send a beam down into those tectonic plates and affect the water under the ocean that cause the movements in the tectonic plates, which then cause them to drop, causes that suction, it rises, causes a tsunami? Is that UFOs? I mean, people can dig into this. Very interesting to have a look at that. Yeah. So yes, all these different stories, the UFOs are around. Those Renaissance paintings with the UFOs in them.
You mentioned about underwater. Do you think there may be underwater civilizations that we've not discovered yet? Because a lot of the ancient myths and legends talk about people coming from the sea, even like Zeus and things like that. And they always say, I don't know if that means from a ship, from a sailing ship or what, but I think maybe there might be some sort of bases under the sea. And
these caves. Everybody's afraid of caves. The human is naturally afraid of caves. We're afraid of dark places. We're afraid of holes. Why? We're afraid of putting our hands down a simple hole because we worry that, well, a spider or a snake might bite me. No, it goes deeper than that. We're afraid because there's something, those lead into other dimensions. So these places where you talk about under the sea or these UFOs that come out of the sea, yes, there are civilizations in different levels. From Earth to Agartha, it's not just a straight tunnel. There's different dimensions you're passing through. It's been talked of that. I mean, there's at least 2 dimensions you're going to pass through. You're not going to go straight from Earth into Agartha. You'll be passing through a couple of dimensions. So, yeah, there are people on those different dimensions, different civilizations. I mean, we're talking about continent-sized civilizations of what we see on Earth here. There are civilizations on the different levels within Earth. Yes. And then within those different places, like in a town, let's call it a hamlet, a small town. In the small town, you'd have people based in the different areas. Our modern-day suburbs, you'll get a good area, you'll get a bad area. You'll get a well-developed area, you'll get a lesser developed area. You'll get an industrial area, you'll get a commercial area. It's the same with these different civilizations and different continents and different peoples and species down there. They've all got different jobs. So yeah, you're running into different people, and yes, they're on different levels, physical different levels. Yes, 100%.
The best guess would probably be somewhere around the Bermuda Triangle, wouldn't it? So many mysterious things have gone wrong there. Maybe something really important there that they can't let anyone get near, or they're scared of people getting near.
The people who are in charge of the wars, the people who are sitting behind the soldiers, not the foot soldiers. We talk about the people who are sitting in their lush offices, having their conferences and phone calls and making the decisions, and they have to tell the generals and the army leaders, oh, well, you must send your men to do this, send your men to do that. Andrew, who are those and what are those people doing? You think they're all human? You think those are human that are making those decisions and calling the shots? Those are not humans. The foot soldiers that go into war, majority of them are human, but not all of them are. You'll always get a rogue soldier who does some weird things that we either are not told about, or sometimes you will hear about some of them. You have to start questioning who's got that sort of mindset, that sort of power that they will go rogue and like get away with it.
You keep
Human
hearing
has a
about
general
this
average.
reptilian brain, don't you? They keep hearing people on different programs talk about the reptilian side of your brain and how it can make you do evil things.
Well, that's your survival instinct. The reptilian brain is your survival instinct, and it doesn't have emotion. So if you're doing a mathematical formula, let's just say a school kid is doing a mathematical formula in class, in a maths class. Now, because he's working out clinical facts, 1 + 1 = 2, is he evil because he's got no emotion attached to it? So the reptilian brain has not got feelings because it's a survival mechanism. So now we start saying, oh, well, the reptilian brain is our evil side. Because we've got the 3 brains on average, the 3 brains. There are more, but there's the 3 brains. So doing a clinical subject, 1 + 1 = 2, there's no emotion attached to that. So that's your reptilian brain if you need to operate on a survival level for that. So, yeah, we're getting carried away with this. The people are not ready. Only for those who are ready to start studying the deeper stuff and start saying, okay, what's behind all of this? What's the point of this? We've been distracted too easily. We've been distracted by the wrong stuff.
Do you know what? Do you know about cloning, Holger? Because a lot of people, I don't know if you've ever seen Donald Marshall's interviews, but I find them fascinating where he's talking about these underground bases where there's arenas of people, and when you go to sleep, they transfer your consciousness into a clone, and then they do all sorts of weird stuff to you, or that's where they do all the secret meetings. So you can never really be caught that way, can you? You can't be listened upon. Do you believe in that sort of thing happens?
Yeah, it's happening. But the clone is not just one person. It can be a number of people. It can be 5, 6, 10 different people cloned from one person. We're not talking about a single clone. We're talking about multiple clones. Yes, consciousness certainly does shift. I mean, just go and look on the internet at the double slit experiment. How you will see, this is the foundation. The double slit experiment is the foundation of physics. What's the word I'm looking for? Quantum physics and quantum mechanics. The double slit experiment shows that the physical person, or the physical atoms, electrons, protons, neutrons, quarks, whatever you want to call them, are doing one thing, and then there's this unseen that's matching it. So when they're talking of clones, we're not talking of just physical lookalikes. We're not just talking of physical actions. Andrew, we're tapping into deeper parts of the mind and deeper parts of energy that people are not even looking into yet. I mean, we're afraid of clones because we think they've been copied on a physical level, but nobody's questioning what's happening on the non-physical level. And I'm not talking just about the psyche. I'm talking on the invisible world, which travels in another dimension. These so-called parallel worlds. That's part of this cloning story. You have to start asking yourself, the double slit experiment shows you the physical and the non-physical. You have to ask yourself, so if we've cloned a real physical person, what's going on his non-physical part? Now, we're not paying attention to that because we get enamored with this with the sensationalism. We need to look at beyond the physical. Then you'll start getting answers as to, well, what's going on with these clones? It's not just, it's a physical replica of me. It goes deeper than that.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Great Tartary. It was an empire that was supposed to have been reported throughout history, and it was supposed to have had monsters in it. And
again, it's an entrance into another place. You've got, in all mythologies, they will always talk of a triune, or what the Christians talk of a trinity, but this triune is always talking of, you'll have these famous creatures, birds. There's always these weird and wonderful birds. And you'll notice that they are forever attacking the basic cows, horses, the basic land grazing animals. So you'll find there's a level where they talk about birds. Then there's a level where they talk about these pastoral animals. Then you'll get another level in these mythologies where they talk of these mythical and strange, fantastical beasts. So these are the three different levels. So you'll have this, the birds represent the sky people. So this is what we talk of the UFOs. You'll then have the grazing or the pastoral animals, which represents us people here on earth. And then you've got these mythical, fantastical creatures, which is what you're talking of, the Tartary. Those peoples, when they start digging into those other dimensions, they come from another underworld. So yes, Tartary, while we can say, oh, well, there was maps of it showing where it was on the physical earth, it actually led into another dimension of beings, another dimension of creatures. Yes. So you can look at, you can say, oh, well, yes, all right, there's the physical, it's on the old physical maps, but it was actually another level of existence. So yes, it leads into the underworld.
so the European Tartary, is that the same as the Greek Tartarus? Just the same place?
Yeah, Andrew, think about it. Why has that civilization, or why has that history being taken out of our modern day knowledge? You have to start asking yourself, yes, we could talk about what all they did or what was those magical creatures there. And again, you're asking the right questions as to, well, through which civilizations do they come? As you're saying, with the Greeks, prior to the Romans. And then you start having a look at the different peoples they come from. We're talking of the ancestors, the origins of the human species. So we're talking of another group of people that actually, let's call it, were the blueprint for the human. So then you have to ask yourself, why is our blueprint being hidden from us? So why is our origin, our source, hidden from us? If our source is hidden from us, if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. So you have to ask yourself, okay, so why is our source being hidden? Why is the Tartary people, our origins, being hidden from us? And then you have to start, like in your last video, you asked me, okay, so were the creators of the black people the same as the creators of the white people? You have to start asking yourself, okay, so then the Tartary people, we've got different civilizations that bring about, or different blueprint that brings about another species. And then we look at the different humans. We've got the different cultures, the different continents, the different types of human on this planet. The Red Indians, the Norse, as you say, the European culture.
In our next interview, maybe we could do where if people leave a comment below this video, I could go through their questions and maybe do a video where we just answer people's questions from subscribers. That'd be great if you don't mind that.
Yeah, open it up. Yes, let's put questions out, because people are looking for answers. I have read a lot. I will say that. I also get fed information from elsewhere, obviously through my connections, whatever you want to call it. Open it up.
And I'd just like you to finish off. Just plug your website and everything like that, and tell us about your astrology charts and how much, and just tell us what you include in them and all that sort of thing, and where to get them on your website.
All right, my website is African Zodiac. So you can email me, but you can email me, holger@africanzodiac.co.za for South Africa. My website is called African Zodiac. You can go into there. Yes, I like to focus on astrology, but I also like to focus on the deeper mystical stuff. So if people want to understand not just a regular, mundane, everyday life on astrology, it's not just about life around me, but what's behind it? What's the deeper aspects? Why do I operate like I do? Why do I seem not to fit in? So a lot of the public who are viewing this feel they don't fit in. And why don't I fit in? And okay, if I don't fit in, so what am I meant to do? What's the reason I'm here? What am I supposed to be doing here? That's what I deal with in my charts. I like to focus on just deeper than the mundane things. Everybody thinks astrology is just about fortune telling. You know, what can you tell me about, you know, what's the future hold for me? I can have a look at that. That's not a problem, but that's not the real point of astrology. Astrology should be very practical. And very practical is to put you at peace with yourself. Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And then look around you and decide, okay, how do I align that with my present job? So I'm not necessarily going to say you've got to change your line of work. I'm going to say how you would apply your mind and your thinking and your psychic ability and your comprehension and your view on life. How can you match that to what you're doing in this world? Because it's not like astrology is magic and then suddenly it's going to take you off into another world. It's going to allow you to say, okay, so how do I apply my non-physical self to what I'm doing now? That's the point of astrology. Is actually how do you combine the different parts of your being, your spiritual together with your soul, together with your physical. How do I combine that? And then how do I master, or how do I join it together with complication that's happening in the physical world? My physical world's not working. Well, why is it not working? Well, because your other dimension's not in sync with it. How do I correct that? So that's what I like to deal with in astrology. And I've got different charts. People want to have a look at relationships. I can deal with relationships. People want to have a look if they're in the right job. I deal with having a look at how would you, if you can't afford to change your job, or you don't want to promote yourself, how would you find happiness within to be happy in your job, even though it seems unsuited to you? Well, how could you make that job be more fulfilling, more self-satisfying? I deal with that. Obviously, your personal makeup. Why are you like you are? And what am I supposed to be doing here? So, yes, I deal with all of that. Different aspects. As I say, not just mundane astrology. Regular, well, what's going to happen next week? Who am I going to marry? I can tell you the type of person that would suit you if you wanted to look for a partner, but I can also tell you how to improve your present relationship. Instead of keeping it just physical, mundane, and boring, and the relationship's gonna pack in. Some relationships are not meant to work. I would also be very honest and say to people, this relationship's not going to last. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell people the truth so they can also free themselves instead of working their butts off to try and make the relationship work when it's doomed. It's not going to work out. So it helps to actually know, well, am I swimming upstream? Am I doing the wrong thing, or should I continue? So yeah, it just gives answers. Gives answers to many, many things in life.
I'd just like to say also that Holger has done a chart for me, and they're very in-depth and brilliant. Honestly, it's great information what you find out. And also, I'll put a link to his website on my website as well. So if you struggle finding it, there will be a link below this video, so you can just go to that and go to his website. Or you can go to my website and there'll be a link there also. So yeah, so make sure you go over and check his website out. And
I haven't put much work into my website, but what I want to do is I also want to start adding in things, particularly on weight loss and this obese aspect of the world, how to actually improve that. So I want to put various short videos on my website together for that. I'm in the process of putting in together information regarding weight loss, health, basic training, different things that people can look into on physical health. So I will be adding that to my website soon. But thank you very much. I appreciate that.